Okay, everyone. Episode 5. Part 2 of the Spring Sports Recap of the Relay Throw podcast. Andrew Hard. Dan Albach. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm wonderful. I'm really doing great.
Okay.
Sorry, it's got to make it in the episode every time.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm doing great.
You gotta flaunt the logo, like, you gotta remind people that you're a fan of an under 500 team. Who just lost a few games to the Baltimore Orioles, I might add.
Hey, you guys did too. I don't want to hear it. But
Yeah,
I can't say anything. I can't say anything.
We can't agree, though, that the new Camden Yard sucks.
That's terrible.
Did
you see
left field?
Did you see Nicky Gordon?
Nick Gordon and Byron Buxton collide. Well, the weird corner now in Camden on left field. The left fielder Nick Gordon and the center fielder Byron Buxton of the Twins chasing after a fly ball. And Nick Gordon just collided into that corner because he didn't see that coming.
It's terrible.
It led to a run. So yeah, but enough talk of baseball.
Yeah. You say talking baseball every time after we talk baseball, and I'm like, let's not get sued by John Boy.
Hey, I said enough talk of baseball.
Oh,
I didn't say the podcast name.
Yeah,
that will go unnamed.
Yeah.
I respect Jimmy. I respect Jake. I respect Trevor Plouffe.
Let's talk some spring sports. Okay.
Yeah, why not? Isn't that the point?
I think so. And
is that why we're here?
I think so, maybe. And I think we got two great sports.
So today we got some bangers. We got men's lacrosse and the great Danny Destler, who I deem Mr. Marist now. Sorry, Brian Ramos.
I don't know what he's gonna have to say.
I see Danny everywhere, and I know people say Ramos is everywhere. I don't know. I think Danny knows everyone.
Danny was on. I think it was Danny that was on the Marist Instagram page when we had the senior game for basketball. I think he was like the front cover. Don't get me if I know he was in the student section. I don't know if I'm confusing him with someone, but he was on the. I know he was a big face in the student section during that game. Great interviewee, great athlete, great
cross legend.
Club lacrosse legend and great writer about a team that you're going to find out is having a pretty solid season. And I would pay attention to the end of this week. If this comes out this week.
Well, yeah, that's true. You probably will already know the outcome. This might be released the week after. So hopefully
not.
Well, let's just go under the assumption that Marist won the MAAC. Okay.
We had a great season, and you're gonna find out a lot more coming up, right? Not right now.
Well, not right now. Bit, no, you don't need to. We have to transition.
I can't forget to mention water polo.
You can't. It feels like water polo is always the outcast, and like you were about to make water polo the outcast again, but
I didn't try to.
For the relay throw, water polo is not an outcast. In fact,
no,
they're going last. We're saving the best for last.
Best for last in this scenario. And
so
we got Greta Stuckey Jr. and we got Luke Sassa, freshman. And they're going to give us a great 4-person interview that really, actually, we just had it. Gave me some really good insight about water polo, which you'll find out about some of the water polo hubs. You'll find out about the competition and a little bit more about the sport itself.
Yeah, and I think we're going to end it off with a big event that happened last Friday. If you do not know, someone won an award. I'm not going to say who, but someone won
a guy.
Award. He's a guy. Kind of short.
Yeah, he's got a nice first name, nice last name. I don't know if he's done much. I don't even know why we're there. Why he was given the award.
Why were we like
I said, place? we were the other candidates, so it was kind of like, well, and Tim Murray. So,
and Tim Murray, yeah, he can put himself down for that award.
Shout out Tim Murray. I haven't met you yet, but I'm looking
Shout out
forward.
Tim Murray. Shout out to the athletic director of Maryland. But
100%.
So yeah, someone won an award, and we don't know why we were there, but you'll find out why we were there.
We got some fun stories coming up, and we got some maybe some celeb talk. We'll see. We'll find out. I don't want to give up.
Did we hit the big time?
I don't know.
I think this is the most exposure the pod's had.
The MAAC is on the. I said this in this segment. The MAAC is on the map. The Marist, the Po Town, is on the prairie, right?
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, Po
Town's on the prairie.
I don't know. There's not much in a prairie. It's kind of like an big empty field. So maybe not. I mean,
close enough. I'll take it. It sounds good.
Yeah, Po Town has got some great stuff, specifically on this campus, and we got so much go. We had so much going on this month, and we are so excited to cap off this spring sports recap. It's been something we wanted to do for this past month. We've been organizing. It's way tougher to get people on than you'd think, but we're here.
And this was really, before we get into the last interviews, this was really the whole idea for this podcast. Give a platform to our writers who you see typing stuff and you read their articles, and the stories are what matters. So you're focusing on the story and you're not focusing on the writer. We wanted to showcase those writers, and so you can see their faces, you can hear them, and it's hear their stories, and not just focusing on the story.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that's what we accomplished here, and I'm really proud of this. What this has become, the spring sports episode, and it's only the start, man. Only the start.
Yeah. Please check out the most recent gamers that are going to come out. I know Danny's going to have one about the Marist semifinals that, like I said, that probably already happened. Check it out anyway. Probably it's going to be a great game. They're playing Manhattan, who is a valid adversary, and baseball and softball are winding down. So please check out these games and support these writers who we don't give enough credit to, because they really are the ones that have this passion for sports and the journalism field.
So I think, without further ado, here's Danny Destler.
All right, we are back for the second part of the Relay Throw spring recap, and we are here today with, I say this every time we have a guest that they're hard to book. This is a hard man to book. He is running around campus. He is the men's lacrosse beat writer, a current junior. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for
sophomore.
You're a sophomore?
Oh, Dan.
I'm gonna have to restart.
Dan, no, this is staying.
I thought you were a junior.
This is staying, by the way.
No, I can't do that.
No, this is staying. I'm the one
current
who edits it. This is an executive decision.
With his fine. With his work ethic, you think he's a junior. He's a sophomore.
There you go.
Class of 2024, Daniel Destler.
Thank you.
Working his way.
Danny, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys? I appreciate you guys having me.
Dude, we've been looking forward to this for a while. We were talking about this, a minute ago. This team, this has been quite the year for this lacrosse team. I mean, anytime you look at the NCAA rankings and see that Marist is in the top 50, you got to give it a shout out. So we were really thrilled to do this. But we're going to just go through this team, this incredible season, and the MAAC playoffs are a few days away, which you are attending, if I'm aware.
Yes, I will be at both games. I'm gonna run after my 2:00 class to 4:00 game to scout them, and then I'll do the Marist game, obviously.
Where are they playing? Where's the
here.
finals?
It's here.
Really?
Yeah, the whole tournament's here.
Hometown. All right.
Yeah. Boys are pretty jacked up about that.
Oh, I'm sure. That's huge. I think their home record is pretty good. So
yeah.
And let's get into it. They are second in this conference. They are actually ranked higher than the first place team on the NCAA rankings. Bonaventure, if I'm saying that right. They ended 5-1 in the conference, 7-7 overall record. They ended with a 4-game win streak, winning 5 of their last 6, and the only team they lost to in that stretch was second-ranked Princeton. Everybody, which
and they were up 2-1 in that game too, and then Princeton just took over because they're just they're a very good club. So
yeah, that was I had heard about that game when it was going on, and I quickly looked up Princeton, and I was like, holy, a lot of these, schools known for the academics are really good at lacrosse.
The Ivy League schools are really good.
Ivy League, yeah, it's one of the top conferences.
Hockey.
Yeah, right. So, but they ended up losing 18-7, which, scoring more than 5 goals on a top 5 ranked team is pretty impressive. And some other notable opponents they faced. Rutgers, and they only lost by 3 goals to Rutgers, 6th in the nation, and they only lost 13-10. They played Bucknell, who's 33rd. They played the Air Force, 37th, Delaware, 26th. So they played all these teams, which I'm sure the team loves playing. We talked to Mackenzie, and she said the women's lacrosse coach loves playing these teams that are, really good, especially before all this MAAC play. Princeton, they played in the middle of their MAAC play, so that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a recap of those games of where they played opponents that they don't usually face. What was the mindset during those games?
So I talked to coach, and obviously those teams were a lot better, and they're obviously ranked. But you see this in the past couple of years as well, where coach likes to start off against these really good teams to give them confidence, I guess, like that, because like the first game was really close, like 13-10. Looking like the Richmond game wasn't that close. The Bucknell game, they only lost by 8. And I feel like coach does this to build like character with this team. And I like how he does this as well, because they went to UNC, Virginia in years past, and they obviously got blown out. But I like how coach does this because it builds character for his team.
Yeah, 100%. And another opponent I forgot to mention, Richmond, who's ranked 15 in the nation and 9-4 on the season. Did they beat Richmond or
no? They lost 18-4.
Okay, so that was probably the biggest discrepancy of those games. But
yeah, that was the start of the season as well.
Right? Yeah, you're warming up. And they got to play Princeton kind of towards the end, back in early April. But then you got these MAAC games, and man, I hadn't heard anything about this team, and here they are. Looking like the best team in the division, other than the only team they lost to, St. Bonaventure.
Lost by 1.
And they are above them. A low scoring game, very defensive game, and they're ahead of them in the NCAA.
Yeah.
Moving on to these games, Siena, they beat by 1. A little bit of a bounce back game.
That was electric. That game was electric in overtime.
I heard that was probably the second most electric to that final game of the season against Monmouth.
Yes.
The 9-8 win, where JoJo scored 4 and Jason had that goal with 2 minutes left in overtime to take the lead. That was pretty incredible. I had heard the cheers. I was covering the baseball game that day. I could hear the cheers from the stadium, so that was pretty electric.
I was not there for that game though. But yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The club lacrosse team. We had our playoffs. We're going to Navy this weekend for the championship.
Oh, there we go.
So yeah, I won't be at the championship game if we make it, but yeah.
Yeah, gonna mention that too. So of course, last episode we had Mackenzie. She plays on the women's club lacrosse team, and Danny is also a club lacrosse player. So he's keeping an eye on both the varsity squad and
very busy lacrosse.
Keeping his focus on his own squad as they keep going.
I don't know. Do you think it's a rite of passage? Like when Kevin graduates, can I join the club baseball team to while also doing the beat? I hope so.
You throw 90 plus?
Yeah, I would say my batting average back in the day was not that great, and yeah, we won't talk about. No, I got a great eye, great plate discipline and vision. So I'd be like a bronze, and that would be the show compared to club baseball players. Anyway, some of these other games, Manhattan, they beat 13-12, Quinnipiac 17-10, and Canisius 13-7. So it's not like they were blowing their opponents out of the water, but they got the job done certainly. Danny, walk me through these highlights of these MAAC games. How have they been so successful?
Yeah, so I feel like these losses that they had before, they like helped them a lot because their turnovers went down every game and their caused turnovers go up. So they're finding ways to not turn the ball over and to make the other team turn the ball over. And I think that their defense has stepped up every game, and especially with Nove in the net, he's outstanding, ranked 6th in the nation in saves per game. He's just been holding it down, and that senior defensive line has also been holding it down as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Nove. 192 saves on the year with a 532 save percentage. That is a dog right there.
He got snubbed. He didn't get any MAAC awards because all the MAAC goalies are going to the PLL. Like they're really good.
Oh wow!
Like most of the MAAC goalies are really good.
That's unfortunate. So you mentioned defense, and then you got these two players on offense that you mentioned earlier got all MAAC honors. Jojo Pareka.
Yep, Jojo Pareka. Yep.
29 goals, 22 assists. He started all 14 games this year, 254 shot percentage. And then Kevin Polera, 28 goals on a 333 shot percentage. These two have seemed like they're the scoring duo. But give me a better idea of how this offense has been handling these games.
Yeah, so it seems like Jojo is like the quarterback of the offense. He also has 22 assists, which is really good. So he's finding ways to score, and he's also dishing it out to guys like Polera, James Lyons, and a bunch of other guys also on that line. Yeah, so I feel like the older guys like Jojo are really like finding guys open. And yeah, they did have a shuffle at the attack line a couple times. They had Joshua, Paul Carcel, and then Jake Deasy. They also shuffled in, and they did a great job stepping in as well. So I feel like JoJo is the guy that sets up the whole offense. If you look at the ESPN broadcast, they always call him the quarterback of the offense every time.
Yeah. So you mentioned something earlier that piqued my interest.
Yes.
You talked about the MAAC goalies who are going to the PLL.
Yeah.
Now, unlike other sports, I think lax has more of a Northeast type of feel. Mm-hmm. The lax in hockey. Yeah. So that elevates the conference in a way, since it's pretty much just based in the Northeast.
Yeah.
So where do you think like the MAAC ranks in terms of these mid majors in men's lax?
I think that the MAAC ranks like really high in those mid majors because if like as you see like every game is close, and even like the other teams, they have a bunch of close games, and I feel like the MAAC is really on their way up. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at these conferences on the top of the list. The obviously Big Ten, Ivy League, and then ACC. I know, coming from New Hampshire, I knew BU and BC. Well, BU's in the Patriot League, but I knew they were. Lacrosse is just a whole different culture here in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you scroll down this list, and you got a lot of MAAC teams kind of making their appearances. You know,
if you look at the goalies, there's like 4 goalies in the top 10 for save percentage in the MAAC in the NCAA.
See, that's incredible. That's something
and 2 of those guys are they're going to be here tomorrow playing as well.
Would they ever I know, well, I just wanted to ask, would they ever transfer? Would do these MAAC goalies transfer? Is lacrosse a big transfer sport, or not really?
Not really. It's not really as big as basketball or football, but like you do see guys transferring as well, but not as big as the other sports.
I know we have a guy who used to be here who's at Duke, 7th year, I guess. Forgot his name.
I forgot his name too, but I know you're talking about
Jack. Maybe I don't remember.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
Yeah, but I know. Yeah, you have some transfers, but yeah, Danny's right. It's like not as common.
Yeah, I hope not, because I honestly, it feels like the love of competition's been really good in this division and just overall throughout the year. And now we're
Really good
closing.
games.
Yeah, and now we're closing in on the MAAC tournament. So they're playing Manhattan.
First round.
First round, who they is the third seed, and they played them. And they only won by one. So
Yeah, that was a
there's
crazy game.
Yeah. Well, walk me through that first game against Manhattan. And
Yeah, so I don't remember who really scored, but I remember watching at home, and I remember like it was a back and forth affair. They got up 2 or 3 goals, and then we came back, and then Novellano actually got a penalty at the end of that game, so he had to come out, and it was the game. We were up by one at that point, and the backup comes in, O'Mara, who played with. He's from Yorktown, I believe. He played with both Embry twins, and he made like the last save of the game, and it was just electric. I remember watching that, getting really excited. So that was a really fun game. I hope
yeah,
no doesn't get a penalty again, but if they do, I think they're in good hands with O'Mara back as a backup.
talking about surprise performance, I looking at the minutes. I think he only had 8 minutes on the year, which
Yeah.
I mean, if you ever need a backup goalie to come in clutch, it's against the team you're about to play in the MAAC tournament. How does the MAAC tournament work in lacrosse? Is it top 4 teams?
Top 4 teams, yeah.
So, and then on the other end of this bracket, you have the 1 and the 4 seeds of St. Bonaventure, and I believe it is Siena. So, what are your thoughts looking at this bracket? I know it's a short bracket, but just the semifinals and the finals in this tournament. What can Marist do to find success in this tournament and really shock this division?
Yeah, so I think it really does start on the offensive end for them. I think that they're very fundamentally sound on defense, and as you can tell, Nov, Stofko, Wesner, and I forgot the other one, but those 4 guys that I mentioned are like their backbone of their team. They get stop after stop when they need them, and the offense has come alive in the past couple games, scoring like 12, 13, 13, and 9. So I feel like it does start with them, but they've become like a really fundamentally sound team, like all around. I think that's going to come full circle this weekend and tomorrow, and you guys will see it.
100%.
So Danny, before we started recording, you gave out, I think, the greatest sabermetric stat I've ever heard in my life.
Which one was that?
It was that the last time Marist hosted the MAAC tournament, they won.
And in 2019, they beat Quinnipiac by 1. And then they went on.
Yeah, so just looking at the whole outlook of this tournament, facing Manhattan tomorrow and whoever Marist faces on Saturday, you think Marist has a good shot? Or do you think, of course all these teams have a shot because of, they're competitors, but do you think Marist is more well positioned than their MAAC opponents?
100%. Yeah, I think that they're more like well positioned because that like their team has finally like come around, and I feel like team really wants another shot at St. Bonaventure because they lost them in such a low scoring game last time, and especially at home, that would just make I don't know. I feel like the seniors of this team, like there's just like something in them, like the fire's gonna kick in, and I think that they really want to like win this for the community as well.
Yeah, up and down the conference, disregarding record and looking at like the people we've played, this is just a competitive. There's not many schools, but this is competitive.
This is very competitive.
This is probably the most evenly matched division I've seen of any sport. Obviously in basketball, Iona kind of has been dominating, and St. Peter's. And then women's lacrosse, it was really skewed, and same thing with baseball and softball. It's like the top 3 teams in this big cutoff, and obviously there's only 4 teams, but these have been close matches every time, so it really looks like this could go any way, and it wouldn't be that big of a surprise. What was the biggest surprise this year for this team? Like, what really had you saying like this is a team that did not look like it was going to have this strength and is now a second seed in this tournament?
Yeah, so I think it really starts with the face-off acts with Dylan. He got all MAAC rookie team, for his performance. And he like the first game he won 3 out of 13 faceoffs, which is absolutely terrible. But then he's really come around. He's won MAAC Rookie of the Week. I feel like he's also a freshman, which it's a lot of pressure on a freshman to come in right away and start, especially with the years past. They had Peyton Smith, who's in the PLO now, I believe, and Andrew Evans, who also was a really good guy for them. I feel like filling in those shoes for him was really difficult at first, but he's most definitely come around now. He really struggled, but in like the first couple of games, and now he's just a really fundamentally sound player now, and the coach loves it.
For the MAAC tournament, Danny, do you see any like underrated players, any X factors that we might not have heard much of during the season that could take a big step up in the playoffs?
Yeah, I can start on our team. Jason Intermasoli. He really is a guy who is like the leader of this team in the huddle. He had 12. He only had 12 goals, but he had 23 assists for the team. And he is a guy who obviously scored the game winner, but he's a guy who loves to find his teammates first. He's definitely a pass first kind of guy in this offense. And I think that if they want to win, he has to keep it going, and he has to find his guys to score some goals for the team.
Yeah, I mean, he had that big moment, like we mentioned earlier, against Monmouth. It sounds like a real team player for this team that, men's lacrosse has a huge roster. So it seems like there's a lot of vital interconnected parts, especially in the bottom end of this roster.
Mhm.
So, but we
Well,
are
I
about,
want to go back on something if that's okay.
yeah. No, go
So,
ahead.
the biggest surprise was also obviously the injury to Embry. He went down first game of the year, he tore his ACL. He was all MAAC preseason, like first team MAAC player of the year, basically first team. And his twin brother, I was talking to him about it. He said it's the first time I haven't played with JMO in about like forever because they played in the same team. I think that the team rallied around that, and I see him on the sidelines. He's basically one of the coaches on the sidelines. He's getting them fired up and whatnot, and I feel like he needs to still have that voice because him and about 5 or 6 other guys were on that 2019 team when they won. So I think that in order for them to win, they need to have that voice and they need to fire up the boys basically.
Yeah, 100%. You always gotta love a story like that. Obviously heartbreaking, but something to rally around. We're about 13 or around 14 hours away from this game tomorrow. I've asked this to I think all the other beat writers. Danny, why should a Marist student or alumni be watching this game tomorrow?
Well, first and foremost, because I think that we have a really, really, really good shot at winning this whole thing. And we went to the NCAA tournament in the 2019 year, and we lost at home. And I feel like the boys, they just want a redemption story, and they want to be able to show everyone that they are one of the best teams on campus. And I feel like they can get it done on Saturday and obviously tomorrow, but first they have to focus on Manhattan, who's a very good team with the goalie who's going to go to the PLL. And his Krebs is the goalie, and he's really good. So they obviously have to get ready for him tomorrow.
Now, Danny, why should everyone watch Club Lacrosse in Maryland on Saturday?
Club Lacrosse. So we're going to Navy. It's pretty cool. Because we are the 1 seed in the whole thing. There's 8. We won against UMass and Brown to go to the Elite 8. And I think that we also have a very good chance of winning the whole thing as well. So
Did we see a dual championship?
I think we can. Yeah.
You love to hear that. Daniel Destler, player, writer, all around stud. Thank you for coming.
Sorry, real quick.
No, go ahead.
We call our colleague and friend Brian Ramos Mr. Marist. I think Danny Destler is Mr. Marist. I see this guy everywhere.
We haven't even had Ramos on the pod yet.
I'm stripping the title away from him.
Wow.
Danny Destler is now the new Mr. Marist.
This is gonna start some beef.
Thank God there's no more meetings.
Oh wow. Yeah, I know. And maybe, if Ramos requests to be on a summer episode, we might get a response track. Obviously, Ramos is pretty outspoken. So, but anyways, just to
Mr.
wrap this
Marist
up.
debate.
Yeah.
I would love to come on in the summer as well.
We'd
I
love to
appreciate
have
guys
you.
having
Oh
me.
yeah, we'll have a
we'd
big
love to-
episode in the summer.
We're
Yeah.
gonna do some specials, some more previews. Maybe a closeout episode where we honor our seniors.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But Daniel Destler, thank you very much. Good luck to
Thank you.
Good luck to the club lacrosse team, and good luck to this.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks,
Of
Danny.
course.
Have a good one.
Okay, guys. So now the long-awaited water polo segment, capping off our spring sport recap. Dan,
Yeah,
capping it off. Ready?
this is awesome. We got a four person roundup today, and man, I've been waiting forward for this. Looking forward to this.
4 people means it's big.
And we're not
Big
bad
time.
at water polo. We're not bad at water polo either. So
Exciting.
But
But
take it away.
yeah, so for introductions, we got the triple threat because Greta does track, circle, and center field. Junior, Greta Stuckey. How are you doing, Greta?
Doing good. Thank you.
And we got the freshmen. So we got 2 freshmen and 2 juniors here. I don't think we planned
Freshman
this.
rule.
Oh man, I don't know about that, but we got Luke Sassa. How are you doing, Luke?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Good.
Awesome. We've been talking to each other the past hour and a half. Unfortunately, I can't wait to get off.
Whoa. You don't need to say unfortunate.
Sorry.
You guys sick of each other yet?
What do you say?
You guys sick of each other yet?
We're getting there. We had our falling out of the meeting today. Kind of started,
Yeah,
throwing some punches. So
we had
I
our
think
falling
eventually,
out. We had our falling out, and that's why we're recording.
yeah. And eventually, I'll take the rights of the podcast, and Dip and Andrew will be left with nothing. But
Okay,
we
no,
don't
I
have
could
to go
start
there.
hard news.
Right.
But the task at hand is to talk about water polo because water polo's had a good year. 25-14 overall, 11-4 in the MAAC. They were the 3 seed in the MAAC tournament this season. Just quickly running down the schedule, tough start. Just having, and so I should preface, there's not many water polo teams in the country, which is very unique for Marist and the MAAC in general. So usually you face tougher opponents in water polo. That's the norm just because the lack of opponents. So Marist started their season by facing 4 top 11 teams in the country in the Michigan tour. And they just got demolished in all those games. They first took on number 2 Stanford. They lost by 17. Then they took on number 6 Hawaii, lost by 16.
They're high scoring games.
Took on number 8 Michigan, lost by 8, 13-5. Then they lost to number 11 Indiana by 12. Now just quickly going over those. Brutal start. We were just talking with Danny Destler about men's lacrosse and talking about how coaches like to schedule tough starts to their seasons just to improve confidence in their squads, saying you can do this pretty much. Is it different in water polo because of the lack of opponents? Are you kind of forced to take on higher quality opponents, or do you think coach was just hey, we got to go through the gauntlet and find out who we are as a team?
I know that the coach likes doing having a heavy load in the front and also being back in California for those games because a lot of the girls are from California. It's all right, we're going to go back to where you guys all live. And they know that the competition's pretty hard. So from what I know, they go in with a mindset of we're probably not going to win, but this is a great experience for us to have moving forward. And then it just makes it easier when they start playing MAAC schools down the line.
How many are from California, Greta? Do you know?
I don't know the exact number, but most of the team, there's only I think
wow.
maybe 5 that aren't. So majority of the team, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. I didn't know that. I guess I mean there are a lot of Cali schools on this list. Santa Clara, Cal State, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and once again, that's just you get a lot of those players nationwide just because of the lack of programs, which I find is so interesting. That's why water polo is so unique from the other sports in college athletics, because it's so rare to find. And because of that, I mean, you're recruiting like really across the country. It's not regionalized like Marist is in most sports. Um, but going on in the schedule, you're moving on. Got 2 wins in the Bruno Classic, then 2 losses in the Triton Invitational, followed by
And then 2 wins in the
wins in
Triton Invitational too.
So it's going back and forth of these skids and winning streaks, which seemed to be the case for most of the season. But as we headed towards the end of the season, that's when the team took full control. They ended the season on a very strong note. Really, just I wouldn't say dominating their games, but just consistently having games won by 5 or more points. And once again, we were just talking about this in lacrosse, but I think because lacrosse and water polo are so similar in structure, it's just water polo is just on water. I mean, I think you'll see a lot of that. I think it makes a lot of sense. But I know you guys didn't get to cover every game, of course. So, just from the games you got to cover, what did you guys get to see from this team? Like, what kind of what's their strongest quality, weakest quality, etc., etc.
So definitely from the games that I saw, I kind of took over a little bit later in the season, went to a few games. I went to both games on April 2nd, in which they were in the midst of what ended up being a 9-game win streak before they had a couple losses to finish out the year. And you could just see like even the fact that they had played some tougher opponents in the year definitely like raised their level of play, because they won a number of close games like coming into that stretch where maybe they wouldn't have been as clutch if they hadn't faced such tough competition. But they also, in their game against VMI on April 2nd that I was at, like they thoroughly dominated from start to finish. Like it was like not even a contest. So just starting off with the game against Iona, it was they won 9-5, so it was more low scoring, but they felt like they were in control the entire time. And what I saw from them is like their offense is like good, but it's not great, because they kind of had a few opportunities to maybe like pull away a little bit more than they did. But for some reason, just, even though they didn't necessarily pull away, like it was 6-2 going into the half, 7-3 going into the fourth quarter, it still felt like they were in full control, because senior Marina Hyam, she did such a great job in goal. She made 12 saves on the day. She had a bunch because they were down 1-0 for the first 4 minutes, and she made a bunch of saves to start out. So they never really trailed by more than that 1 goal. And then they were able to kind of score a few and, just take control of the game, and they led the rest of the way. So definitely very solid performance in that game. And senior utility Miriam Lazat, she had the best performance of the day. She had 5 steals to go along with 2 goals. So she was huge, and just defensively, kind of stealing possessions, getting it back on offense. And then the second game was just a laugher against VMI. I mean, from start to finish, it was just like total domination. Their offense looked really, really good the whole game. Their defense, it was 19-5 was the final score. I was surprised that VMI even scored 5, because it was 12-1 at the break, and they kind of just coasted the rest of the way. One thing that I did find interesting that I kind of overheard while I was writing, I could hear the coach kind of yelling at all his players after the first period because they had a big lead. He said, "I don't want you guys to take your foot off the gas. We need to keep pushing. We need to keep going." And it was interesting because they clearly wanted to, treat the game with integrity and play all 4 periods. But also, it was kind of, I guess, just going forward. They knew they were going to have some tougher opponents, so they didn't want to let up.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know. Is this your first beat that you've gotten this year? The first team that you've had the chance to write about?
I've kind of like bounced around.
Yeah,
So
I
I've
did the
done
same
that.
thing.
Yeah, they've had me all over the place. So I'm kind of just like, like you were saying before, you didn't know much about water polo. I kind of was on the fly,
Yeah.
just educating myself on it, but I'm definitely much more familiar now with it than I was before.
Yeah, 100%. Greta, which game did you cover and what did you see?
Yeah, I covered LaSalle game. I forget the exact date in April, but it was like one of their later games against LaSalle, and they won pretty. I mean, it was a close game, but they pulled away towards the end, and I think they have a really strong like defense, and also just like being able to hold possession of the ball. They seem pretty good at like even when they're not scoring, they're keeping the ball to them, which is pretty effective and definitely strong from like Miriam Heim. And as a goalie, she's been very strong the whole season. And then like freshman Madeline Schultz, player of the week for the MAAC, like multiple times, almost every week. And then player of the year for the MAAC in water polo. She was just strong in every game, very effective player, gets like lots of assists and goals. So overall, they're pretty good for like how young of a team they are. I think it's definitely like a rebuilding year coming off last year when they obviously won the MAAC championship. But that was partly because Wagner opted out for COVID reasons. And Wagner has kind of been on top of the MAAC in water polo for a while.
So, just the structure of water polo. I know I mentioned lacrosse before, but we were talking last episode about comparisons to water polo. We mentioned handball, of course lacrosse.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah.
What else did we say? It was like
I think lacrosse and handball kind of where it took the cake, and then obviously there's some water there, so that's kind of interesting.
But my question to you guys about that is like, how would you guys describe water polo, like as a sport? Like, if say you have like an elevator pitch to like a Marist student, you're just walking across campus. What is water polo? And why should they watch water polo? Or play
Interesting. I mean, I guess like for me, I'm like water polo it's kind of like I think of it as like a swimming sport almost. So I'm like, and it's an extension of like swimming. But because you have to tread water for that entire game, which is pretty exhausting. Like once you get over a half hour of treading water, it's pretty intense. And then like you're saying, I guess it relates to like lacrosse or soccer in my head where like, there's 2 goals, 2 teams, you just passing. And like, instead of taking it down a field, you're just taking it down the pool and then trying to score. So I'd say it's pretty similar in that way.
Luke, you got a take?
Yeah, so if you want to compare it to lacrosse, because I just covered the game this weekend, I would almost say it's like lacrosse, but in slow motion. Because like in you have like crazy breakaways and it happens so fast and the ball's being transferred so fast. And like definitely I would describe water polo as being much more deliberate, but just because it's moving slower, I would say it's also, much more grueling because, even though lacrosse moves faster, just the physical strength it takes, like Greta said, to tread water and to be moving and then to be able to come up from the water, have the ball in your hands and determine, whether you're going to pass it or shoot or what you're going to do with it. That takes a lot of skill. And I think it just shows in that there's not even that many water polo teams out there on the collegiate level, which shows the level of skill is just tremendous for it because there's not a lot of people doing it.
Yeah, those are 2 very great descriptions. Interesting and slow lacrosse because even though it looks slow, like in the Olympics, I'm sure you flip through the channels and see it on. It's like, what is this? But I think the thing that gets overlooked the most, which you talked about, is the athletic performance. There are only a handful of teams in the nation, and for good measure, because these are freak athletes. I mean, I remember watching the Olympics this past summer, it was a while ago. And these athletes that are water polo athletes, I mean, they look like Goliaths. I was watching the semifinals and finals. Their legs are huge. Their quads are the size of my heads. And it's like, to tread water that long and also like torque your body to get any sort of strength to throw a ball into a net is incredible. Just for you guys, what's like the biggest, like, what's the most impressive athletic performance you've seen while watching that? Like, what is something you take away from those games? And it's like, I could never do that. That's pretty incredible. So yeah.
For me, I would say like honestly, Marina Heim as goalie. Like from what I've seen, she's done some pretty like crazy saves and stuff where it's like shot pretty hard right into the corner. I'm like, all right, there's no way she's getting that, because like when you're treading water, it's pretty hard to lift yourself out of the water. Like that's a whole nother level of like strength you need, and she can do it like pretty well, and she does it often where she'll dive up and deflect it off and stuff. So honestly, those types of saves have been pretty impressive from like a physical standpoint.
Yeah, I would say first game against Iona, it was Marist's first goal of the day. Madeline Schultz, she basically she swam all the way up, and then she popped right up from like right in front of the goal and collected a pass from like overhead. Like it literally came in from overhead. She kind of just looked up. She was like, oh, there it is, collected it, and then immediately like shot it on goal. And just the response time to that. Like I know like when I come out of the water, it's like chlorine in my eyes and I'm just miserable, and just the fact that like they're so unfazed by it, they just can like, they're like fish the way that they swim around. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, you guys both mentioned some standouts. Marina Heim at goalie, absolutely a great season. But who were some? There are a few freshmen on this team, and it's a very young team. It's not saying there wasn't any seniors. Of course, there were seniors, but the young team. They still did well, which, just looking across the spring sports we've covered, it's hard to find that. Like women's lacrosse, for instance, is a very young team, but they struggled this year. How do you guys think water polo operated differently? Be able to succeed while having a young team.
I think it partly had to do with the fact that like the senior girls that they did have been like extremely strong players throughout the past, at least my like past 3 years here. I know like following the Alter sisters and like Victoria Orlova and then Miriam Lazat, like those players have been very like kind of important to the team since they were freshmen. So I think just building that up and like getting that team atmosphere going of like, this is the standard they set. And then they just kind of came together. I think it worked out well.
Yeah, definitely. Having like a senior in goal was like very helpful, because it's obviously one of the most important positions. So just it kept them in games for sure. You definitely could see the youth of the team, specifically in their semifinal matchup against LIU. I think they lost 13-7, and I was at the game, from start to finish. They were down 4-1 after the first. They were thoroughly outplayed. So they definitely were deserving of third place. They were not ready for that next step yet, but at the same time, like they have center Ella Baumgarten. She scored a few goals when I was at a few of the games, and they definitely, I would say, have a promising future, but they're going to have somebody step up in goal.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Dan.
Oh, go ahead.
No, since you mentioned it, let's get into the MAAC tournament game. Now, Luke, you said you covered it. Obviously, just said the youth was a factor in their loss against LIU. What else did you see in that game? There wasn't a lot of offense in that game. They lost 13-7. What did you see in that game that could have led to that outcome.
I mean, it was just as simple as LIU was the better team. I mean, Marist didn't really get on the board until the third period when it was kind of clear, like both of the defenses were just kind of like, running out of gas. And there was like a little period in the middle of the third period where like both teams were like kind of just almost exchanging goals with one another for a little stretch. And I think it was 9-4 heading into the fourth because they just both looked out of gas, for that little stretch going back and forth there. But just previous to that, the defense of LIU was smothering. There was just sloppy execution on offense for Marist. They weren't able to convert some of their opportunities. And there was just a bunch of great shots that LIU made where, Hyam, she is a great goalie, but there's only so much she could do, and there were shots coming at her left and right.
Yeah, it definitely sounded like a tough game, and third place is by no means bad after a year where they won the MAAC tournament, which is pretty incredible. Do you think they have what it takes to be competitive again next year? They've got some great freshmen on this team. I think Schultz, I saw her on my Instagram feed, like in the MAAC play, like rookie of the week, like I think as many times as Jalatuka was MAAC rookie of the week. So does this team have what it takes to be competitive next year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, like Schultz, Baumgarten as freshmen, but they also have a number of juniors too who are going to be seniors, like India Alter. There's a few of them as well. So that'll be important. People who have been there still when they won a MAAC championship to kind of, still instill that leadership and show them how it's done. Obviously, the coaching is going to be really important, but they're going to have somebody step up in goal. That's going to be really important to kind of take over that, and if it's somebody who's a little bit more inexperienced, that could pose an issue. So we'll see.
Are you calling that the most important question of this offseason? That open spot at goal? Is that the most important spot?
Yeah, I would say so, just because, you have someone who's been there and knows how to do it with successful at the highest level. You want to see that success replicated going forward. And it's a question mark for sure.
Knowing Coach Vidal recruited pretty well. It's like a big part of what he does is traveling back and forth to California and other places that have like just the water polo hubs kind of. And he'll just go there and be like, all right, these people already have this amount of skill level. And then he's just like, I pretty much just integrate them into the team.
Yeah, 100%. I was looking at this roster while we were talking. 14 students from California. New Zealand, we got two students from New Zealand, and then just kind of spread out. Canada again, another big, I guess you said it, water polo hub. I didn't know these regions were into water polo. Do you know why California is such a big water polo?
I think it's because they can play all year round. They have Olympic sized pools and like outdoor facilities that are just like very easy. Like when they go to schools like Stanford and those type, they play outdoors. So, it's different than like when they're on the East Coast and everything's like an indoor pool. So yeah, there's just big outdoor tournaments and stuff. Most high schools kind of have a water polo there.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more incentive to play outdoors.
I'm sure it's a lot cheaper.
That too.
So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, just to wrap it up, I haven't been to a water polo game yet. I don't know if Andrew has either. Greta and Luke, if you had to ask or convince someone to go to a water polo game, if you had to convince a Marist student to attend a water polo game, what would you tell them? Like, how would you get them to come to these games?
I'd probably say it's definitely like people don't really understand what it is, but I'm like, if you come, you'll catch on really quick. Like it's not a hard sport to catch on to because it's, like we're saying, similar to lacrosse and soccer. It's like the object is to score. Whoever has the most points wins. It's not too complicated, but it is really fun because it's a lot more rough than people think it will be. Like, you see the girls like kicking each other, pulling each other, like it's definitely like a very
I don't want to cut you
sport.
off. Under the water, they'll have those cameras in the Olympics. It's brutal. It's it's kind of scary.
They're kicking, you're punching, like all the things that you can't see underwater to get away with. Like the girls are pulling on each other. They'll get called sometimes for those things, but it can get pretty like rough, which is fun to watch, I guess.
Luke,
Yeah.
why
So
would you? How would you convince someone?
Well, the biggest thing for me was like, it was so exciting. Like I wasn't expecting that. And I think it had a lot to do with the crowd, specifically here at Marist. Like, these games were pretty well attended. The ones that I was at, there was a lot of support from fellow student athletes who were going. And also like a lot of the families, you can definitely tell that there are water polo hubs. And a lot of these families seemed very close knit. And like they had been going to these games for like 10, 15 years to support their children, which they probably have been, because, that you had like moms and dads leaning over the rail, screaming at the referees type of thing going on there. And it was just like really cool to see how excited and into it everybody was. And I almost felt like I had to be into it as well, just because of the energy of the crowd.
Yeah, 100%. I think that sums it up right there.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming. Congrats to the water polo team. I know it didn't go so well, but third place. Take that. They won their consolation game, so take that. We'll take that. Fine.
I gotta ask one little question. Are you guys gonna be writing about these games next year? You think you'll go back and do a beat or two?
Yeah, I think I'll do it again. It's like last year I got to cover a lot more. Now my track schedule kind of conflicts, so if I have more free weekends to cover them, I definitely will.
I'll fill in whenever you need.
100%.
Dan's only asking because he wants to take the job.
Yeah, I Andrew also was just like really adamant about being the full-time water polo beat writer.
Absolutely.
So we'll be fighting you guys for those positions. But anyway, Andrew, back to you.
Yeah, no. I think we did a good job. Thanks for the description, guys. It was great to have you on. Thanks for capping off the spring sports podcast. The two-parter's done. We're on to the summer. Yeah, have a good end to your semester. Finals time.
Oh boy.
Yep. Not excited for that.
No, you guys will be fine. All right.
Communication.
Thanks for having us on.
Of course.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Greta and Luke, for an incredible interview. Water polo. How about water polo, Dan?
Man, I just like I want to get the beat on like a lot of these sports we have, but water polo, man, I mean, that's going to be a hot beat next year. I hope you don't take it.
Oh, it's going to be competitive.
Yeah, I know. Luke might take it next year.
Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe even Greta. Maybe it'll be a split thing, kind of like a prize. So
whoever wants it that week. No, there's a actually I think Bridget took it because that's where I heard it. There's a swimming class on campus. 1 credit swimming class.
There are so many 1 credit classes that are like just incredible. Like I want to take golf next year. I don't know if I'll have time. Yeah, because I think registration actually just ended like 45 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
there's boxing.
That guy, the boxing teacher I've heard because
Ron Lipton.
Yeah, Ron Lipton is a former ref who has ref championship fights in Vegas, and he's legit. And he teaches a boxing class and
get this. This is something I just recently heard. Former friend of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Which
friend of Ali.
I mean, that speaks for itself. Anyone that's a former friend of Muhammad Ali is a legend in their own right. So you got a lot of, just secret hidden history here. I just like I said, I found that out literally 2 hours ago. And yeah, but you mentioned the swimming class.
Yeah, in the swimming class, I think they teach. That's one of the activities.
Oh yeah, she did mention that. I remember. Yeah, she was talking about that.
Yeah.
I gotta get into one of these 1 credit courses. I know we're not. It's not like we're not sponsoring Marist right now or sponsored by Marist right now, but shout out those 1 credit courses. They're kind of sick.
This is not a paid promotion. They're not sponsoring us with scholarship money.
Yeah, no, that
I wish
that would be slightly illegal. We don't have any, NIL deals either, so no grants. So we got a really cool topic to talk about right now.
Yeah.
this is something that I think we were been looking forward to the past couple months. It kind of crept up second semester that you guys started getting some emails about it, and you read the emails and you did it. I did a double take. I was like, there is no way this could be happening. Andrew, give them a little idea of what we did this past weekend.
So this has been 2 years in the making. So it's supposed to happen my freshman year.
Yeah.
That's how long this has been going on. But we just had a Lifetime Excellence in Sports Communication Award given out.
To me.
Other.
I got it. I won the award.
Dan got it. Dan got it.
Like, runner-ups were, I think it was Tim Murray, Mike Ferraro, and then you were on that list. But yeah. I took the cake this year. I'm planning to go up for it again my junior year. Anyways,
I'm gonna appeal that.
Wow.
I think there's some competition there. I don't know. I think there's some rigged board members or something. Because
keep my awards name out your mouth, man. Not to quote Will Smith.
You see, here's my thing. Should a Red Sox fan be allowed to get a Lifetime Excellence in Sports Communication Award
in the tri-state area?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of treasony.
I'm not gonna even. I'm repping. I'm wearing my New Hampshire shirt.
That's fine. I'm just saying the Red Sox thing. You're not wearing the hat though. Wait, whoa, hold on a second. We just interviewed Danny Destler for the podcast, and you had the Red Sox hat. Did you just make a hat change? Oh my god!
I gotta keep the viewers on their toes. If you want the attention, you're gonna have to switch it around a little bit. The sweatshirt it was too hot in here. I took off the sweatshirt, and then I was like, this hat, the Sox hat, looks better with a sweatshirt, and also is red, and that sweatshirt is red. This is a blue shirt with a blue hat. Keep them on their toes.
Always think about the fashion statement.
Cool. Actually, this hat is from Greenport, New York, Long Island. So
you're allowed to have that. Maybe you do deserve the award.
No, trust me. There's plenty of people in sports that deserve this award. None other than the most legendary broadcaster of my lifetime, of your lifetime, and of many lifetimes ago, Bob Costas. Everyone, that was a wonderful trip. That just caught me off guard. That was wonderful.
Oh yeah.
That is the flyer we all received. I have a few in my bag right here. No, I don't. But they're somewhere. Man, what an event.
This guy.
I mean, look at him. This is the face of the Olympics. This is the face of baseball, good baseball reporting. This is the face of class in sports reporting and broadcasting. This is a guy who challenges the status quo when it comes to saying certain topics on air. And
he's
challenging,
the kid who complains about the infield fly rule.
As Howard Cosell said many years ago, which was hilarious. I love hearing stories like that. Another friend of Muhammad Ali. I still think about that event and smile because it's just like we were in the we were both in the presence of this man who has done so much for the industry. I mean, if he wasn't your idol growing up in this industry, then who was? It's still so hard to express my appreciation, and
he was so sweet. He really was nice the whole night. I didn't get to have a big conversation with him, and neither did you.
I got a few words in. I like I said, I felt bad for you because you just kind of got you were unfortunate with your replacement. I mean, we were all really had some responsibilities.
I eventually did get to talk to him a little.
Really?
I got a quick snippet in, yeah. But
cool.
Yeah, I didn't not before, yeah. Not before that dinner.
Yeah, so basically at this event, we were split up into groups of what our responsibilities were. Andrew was doing a little schmoozing in the cocktail room, that's
where I was assigned.
Not in taking the cocktails, but doing
taking
some
Coca-Colas.
Yes, and doing some talking with the guests. A few people were outside helping. A few people were taking pictures or welcoming the guests with their name tags. I, along with Mackenzie, Matt McNally, who kind of organized the event, he was in the green room for a while, and Marist football player, and Kira, we were in the green room, which is kind of was like the first stop for all these guests before the dinner, this big dinner, which was also the award presentation, which was the majority of the night. But beforehand, I'm in this 50 by 40 foot square room, square foot room of all these cocktail tables and one little bar area, and my responsibility was to talk to the distinguished guests. And I'm going to name off a few of these guests. Christine Brennan, USA Today. She was awesome. First off,
oh my god, very nice.
She liked my tweet yesterday, actually.
She was giving us great internship advice too. Afterwards, she stuck around for. She was talking for 15.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! And don't get me wrong, all these guests were amazing, but I talked to Christine Brennan maybe 3 or 4 separate times, just because every time I saw her, she was like, "Hey, what's up? Who do you talk to?" She also shared our emotions for talking to Bob Costas. When I talked to her, I was like, "I cannot believe I just talked to Bob Costas and shook his hand." And she was like, "I couldn't either when I first met him, and now we're friends," which is unreal. Some other guests that were there: Roth Greenberg, who is the president of HBO
Sports.
Yes. And I looked at this guest list beforehand, and then, but there's some of these names that are more behind the scenes. So when you see them, they're just kind of, they're famous, but these are just people. I talked to Roth Greenberg about the Suns Pelicans game where Chris Paul went 14 for 14, and we talked for like 10 minutes. That's something you just don't do.
The most famous man in New York, who he didn't speak that night, but he was in attendance, and Bob Costas acknowledged him during his speech, rightfully so. You'd see his smile in ads on TV every night, every Sunday night, watching the NFL. Ernie Anastas. I'm sure Dan, being in New Hampshire, he didn't have that type of connection.
So I did a little, because all my family's from New York. I am the only people in part of my family that's in New Hampshire. Everyone else in my family is from Long Island. And when I told my parents that I was going to be in the presence of Ernie Anastas, and as well as some of my other relatives, they were like, "You're talking to the face of New York right there." No, I didn't talk to him. Our good friend Jacob, who's the softball writer, when they did the random seating, which we'll get into a little later.
Perfect pairing. Jacob and Ernie Anastas.
You got Jacob Efremian sitting next to the other face of New York, Ernie Anastas. I talked to him after. I was like, what did he say to him? He was like, we just said hi, shook his hand
a few times.
I think game respects game at that point. I know Ernie knew he was in the presence of a writing genius. So, and just a New York presence right there. So that was a table that I wanted to sit at. Let's go some of these other guests. Bob Lee. Oh my goodness. God. This is the guy you see outside the lines every Sunday.
First Sports Center,
first NFL draft, first NCAA selection show. Are you kidding me? I mean, and Bob was again another great guy. I talked to him for 10 minutes, and he was complimenting. What was he talking about?
Oh, the center field story on Barstool, right?
Yeah, he was talking to Mackenzie and a few of us on the story, the Barstool story, which obviously,
right
a story that was anonymously published by us, that he really got a good, it piqued his interest, so. That's something that is awesome to see, that we are getting attention from people like Bob Lee. also the alma mater of Seton Hall, which Jane is now going to, which again we will get into in our closing episode coming up soon, probably in the next few weeks after this, but you never know with us. But I mean, there was another few Freddie was there, Freddie Coleman,
of course, the great
which you
Freddie Coleman.
can't sell short. He was the first one in the green room. I got to know him a little better than I did.
Steve Croft of 60 Minutes fame.
Steve Croft rocks in this room, and there's not that many. There's like maybe 16 people in this room at the time. It probably got up to 100 at one point. When Mr. Costas showed up, it probably got up to a lot more.
I think 50 were initially allowed in the group.
No, okay.
But there might have been more who just snuck in just to say hi, though.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. And then Mr. Croft walks into this room, and he takes a corner table when all of us are kind of over by the cocktail area. And by the way, I was taking hors d'oeuvres left and right every time one of the servers came out. This is at the Pierre Hotel in New York City, a Taj Hotel, which is I also found out from a very reputable source that this is the Taj Hotel, or a Taj Hotel, is a very notorious brand of Indian hotels that like hotels modeled after Indian culture, which is another kind of cool tidbit there. But we were like, Mr. Croft just walked in and he's just kind of sitting alone. Matt and I go over to talk to him, and he's got a little paper out, writing away. I was a little confused, but we wanted to introduce ourselves as a student. I go, Mr. Croft, don't want to bother you. My name is Dan. This is Matt. We're both students here. Pleasure to meet you. Big fan of your work. And I realized he's writing a speech for later. He's got it typed out, but he's making edits. I don't know what else. I was like, why else would he be writing? And then I realized he's probably speaking, as most of these guests did. There was another producer that was there that showed some great clips of
Bruce Kornblatt.
Bruce Kornblatt, who I shook his hand. I said hi to once, but didn't get too good insight of who he is until he showed those clips, which again we'll get into a little later.
Context: he was Bob Costas' producer, and he has been, still works with him for 30 plus years. So.
Yeah, kind of like his independent producer. Yeah, right? It's not because
now I think he's working for MLB Network, but he pretty much just follows Bob wherever he goes.
Right. Yeah. So so kind of an independent producer. I know no NBC producers are going to be there, but we don't have to get into that. Mr. Costas walks in to this room of, I want to say it was 25 people at the time, and all the trustees kind of just merge in, and Bridget, Mackenzie, Jonathan, and I, and along with more students that started kind of, sauntering in, we all go over to this corner where he is at the corner of the room next to the cocktail table talking to Christine Brennan. He had a mask on. I thought I overheard. It's just because, he wanted to take pictures with the mask, which totally respect 100%. He's talking to Christine Brennan, and Mackenzie, Jonathan, Bridget, and I are just there like, what do we do? I mean, if I'm here, this is Bob Costas. I was standing here like, what do I do? He was, no joke, within 2 feet of me for 10 plus minutes, just like talking away to Christine Brennan.
And then you said, this man is very short.
I actually, that's something I hadn't talked about. He's not a very tall man.
He's so one of my coworkers at the business office was there, and she told me she searched this up because she was shocked about it.
5'6"?
5'7".
Okay, so like Altuve height, or maybe a little taller.
Yeah, I mean, you're this. You're listed at a height, but you could very well be shorter than that listed. I'm listed at 6'1". I could be
me too. Which I think I'm taller than you, so I'm not sure.
Oh no,
actually, I don't really know. I'm probably pretty. So yeah, no, I'm definitely a little tall. Anyway,
I have the bigger hands.
Oh shit! Oh, explicative. But anyway, we were just standing in this rectangle, frozen. And Christine Brennan goes, "Hey, Mr. Bob, these are some of the students." We all turn. And then he's looking at us. And I hadn't met Christine Brennan, so we quickly introduced myself, and she goes, Christine Brennan goes, "These are the students." And I shook his hand first. It was kind of surreal. I still, again, smiling when I think about it. And this is what I said to Bob Costas. Probably hopefully not the only time I'll speak to him, but the one time I got to speak to him in my first 19 years of existence. I go, "Mr. Costas, I'm a lifelong fan, big fan of your work. Thank you for everything you've done. And I've been watching MLB Network since ever since I've grown up. I've been watching it all the time." And he goes, in total Costas fashion, he goes, which I don't even know, I'm not going to imitate him, but he goes, "You started watching MLB Network when you were growing up. I started at MLB Network at age 57. So I just called Bob Costas old, as that is the one thing I will probably ever say to him." But he laughed. He was laughing. He was smiling. So was Christine Brennan. And it was just like, this is such a lighthearted man. This is a guy that just, obviously I totally understand this event. He had a plane to catch after, and he didn't have time. Like, are you kidding me? He didn't have time to talk to any of us.
He totally fit this in, and my God.
And I got the few words to say to him, and it changed. It's going to change my life forever. They say never meet your heroes. I am so glad I met him, because it's just, it brings into effect how genuine and real reporting can be.
I didn't get to meet him during the green room party, but I did eventually get to shake his hand. And like just that alone, just that was, I think, my first surreal moment in sports communication. I mean, just something I never thought, I guess, would happen. I mean, you have this stuff with sports. I'm not saying like, I've met athletes and stuff, and like, I remember last year I walked past Walt Frazier in Madison Square Garden with his pink suit, walking to the broadcast booth, and I was like, I didn't even realize, and like, but I was like so timid. I was like so shy. I was like, "How are you doing, sir?" Like those types of moments stick with you forever, and I don't want to be sad or anything.
Yeah.
But he is older. Bob is
70.
older.
He's 70.
You never know how long people are going to be here for. So to be able to have that moment with Bob Costas, it made, I think the year for me.
This is a man who was famous in the late 70s onward.
Mm-hmm.
This is a man that changed the whole industry, single-handedly. He didn't need NBC as a platform to do that. I mean, you talk about the sports stories you saw. I think the first surreal sports communication moment I had, which does not, like I said, this is different. This is vastly different. But I met Jimmy and Jake from John Boy.
Oh yeah.
I met them at a Sox spring training game. But this is when they were getting their start, kind of early 2020. This is the February before COVID, and I had met them, and the conversation was strictly, we just talked baseball, as you do, talking baseball with that was pretty cool, talking baseball with Jimmy and Jake, and also Trevor Plouffe was there. But this is different. I don't want to take away from that, but this is, I mean, they interviewed him and they were in shock. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that affected that generation, our generation, and generations before, my parents' generation. I mean, this is the guy that called one of the most famous basketball calls ever. The Michael Jordan final shot.
Multiple.
Yeah.
Multiple.
But yeah, but we got to talk about this dinner.
Oh, so Dan, they must have understood that Dan and I were the hosts of the world famous podcast, The Relay Throw. They sat us together at the same table by happenstance.
A great strategy. That is a great strategy. If you want a talking point, put us next to each other. We will just immediately be like, "Hey, we got a podcast."
Yeah.
Andrew sits at this table first.
Yes. Because okay, let me set the scene here. So, like Dan mentioned, I was assigned to the main cocktail party. So, that room probably had 200 or so guests. And that was connected to the entranceway to the dinner room. Is where they held the speeches.
Mm-hmm.
So, they call us in for dinner.
Oh,
people I'm with were like, okay, I guess we'll walk through. So we walked to our table. And I'm in this group, and we're making a joke about the stairs we had to go up or whatever, and I didn't realize I was going to sit with these guys. But we were walking to the same table. We're like, oh, I guess we're sitting together. We sit down, we introduce ourselves. So turns out our table was the Sodexo table. So, for people who don't know, I mean, Sodexo, one of the biggest dining services providers in the country. They go from prisons to colleges to, higher
prison colleges and
catering institutions. Which Jonathan kept mentioning the whole night. Our college food is only a tier above the prison food, so
we're not going to get into that. Sodexo are great people. Love you guys.
So they were very nice. They were very sweet. They were kind guys. They were placing sports bets at the table. And I'm not joking.
Know that.
I didn't know that. Before you got there. Oh, yeah. They were looking at the Wolves Warriors game that night. But, anyways, so we're talking, very sweet people. And Dan comes in about 10 minutes or so after.
Yeah, I was a little late.
10,
I had just gotten a picture with Steve Croft.
Yeah.
But I sit down, right? And I don't know who these people are. I think they could be trustees. They could be, I don't know, they could be friends of Bob Costas for all I know. I sit down, and you're like, oh, well, Andrew just told us all about himself. Tell us about you. So I mentioned the podcast, which I don't think he had brought up yet. We talked about that for a while, and then we kind of transitioned into, how do you like Marist? Yeah. How do you like the food? This is Sodexo, and I had no idea. I go, yeah, it's not that great.
You said, I remember the words you said, it's hit or miss.
Well, that's what I said after. I knew, but at first I said, it's not that great. And I had no idea why they started all laughing. And I was like, I didn't think it was that funny. And Andrew was losing his mind. This is what stuck out to me. They're like, do you know who we are? I was like, no. They're like, we're Sodexo. Instantly, just like this rush comes over me. I'm like, no, there's no way. I just told Sodexo they passed their job. These are the people that, swipe my meal card.
Although I think only one of them actually
worked at the dining hall.
The dining hall, yeah. The rest of the guys were, I believe, regional
execs, right? Yeah. So
I don't think they were directly related to the Marist.
So they revealed to themselves their Sodexo, and I was like, wait. Nah, this is a trap. I think they thought I knew who they were, maybe. But I said, wait, this is a trap. There's no way you just did this to me. The director of the dining hall goes, is it really that bad? And I go, okay, well, I just told him it sucked. So I got to kind of not lie to them. So I said, it's hit or miss. And they lost it again. What are you supposed to say in that scenario? Please let me know. But I reeled them back in. I complimented the director of the dining hall on Taste of Poughkeepsie, which was actually a nice event.
He started kissing their ass.
What else are you gonna do? I needed to have like a somewhat nice dinner for the rest of the night. The dinner was the dinner was not Sodexo food, by the way. It was the Pierre Perhaps food. It was filet mignon. That was wonderful.
Good, very good.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good steak. Cannot. I never complain about a steak. A free steak.
Never complain about a free, not just free steak, a free filet mignon.
Yeah, I know. That was a wonderful cut.
Free 3-course meal.
I know, and the cake. So I was kind of picking at the cake at first because I didn't know if it had tree nuts in it.
Yeah.
So I asked the waiter. I was like, "Hey, does it have nuts?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll go check." And he never checked, or he never came back to the table. I was like, "Well, that's great." So I ate it. Kind of was like, "Well, here we go," and it was great. And I did not go into anaphylactic shock.
No tree nuts.
But the rest of this event, it highlighted. It was all these guests. Freddie emceed, but it was all these guests. Recalling their experiences. Steve Croft, who talked for a while about his 20s with Bob Costas, who
they both went to Syracuse together. So they were friends at Syracuse. So Steve Croft, he was telling stories about how Bob just left and never came back.
Yeah, and here's a little bit. I didn't know that. Here's a little bit of inspiration. If you want to succeed, I'm not saying don't do bad in school. Bob Costas did not finish his education at Syracuse. I don't think.
No,
unless he probably got like an honorary.
Yeah. Syracuse will say this is I think part of what Steve was talking about. Yeah. Syracuse will say he graduated from. They want that allure from having Bob Costas.
100%. Bob Lee goes into kind of like highlighting the aspects of that he personally changed in the journalism world, just about his charisma and his undying service to the craft. Christine Brennan kind of talked about their relationship together. And
sorry, real quick, another you brought up Bob Lee, another Jacob story.
Yeah.
So when this is before everyone comes in, we're all in like that main room where you pick up your name tags and your seating card, dinner, and we all walk in there from the main cocktail room, which, by the way, was the cocktail room in Scent of a Woman, starring Al Pacino.
Scent of a Woman. I was telling my parents it was in an Al Pacino movie. I didn't know.
Scent of a Woman. The tango scene in Scent of a Woman was in this cocktail room. But anyways, we're walking back from there to the main room, and Bob Lee is talking to Jane McManus in the corner of the room, and Jacob turns around and he gives me like a little shoulder tap. He's like, "It's Bob Lee." He's like, "That's Bob." And I contained myself. I was just like, yeah. But like I was like kind of laughing, but also like starstruck at the same time. I was like, yeah, that's Bob Lee. And it was so funny.
Jacob provided.
I couldn't even turn around to look at him. I was like scared to look at Bob Lee. But no, he was a very like we said, very nice guy.
Oh, great guy. And yeah, he spoke some great words about Bob. Christine Brennan was talking about their relationship and just a few funny stories. And Bob actually came on stage and finished telling the story. It was I forget who they were talking about, but
they're talking about Darren.
They were talking about something 25 people 30 years old in the pub would understand, but I didn't.
No, well, more like 50 and above, but they were talking about Time Tunnel.
Oh, Time Tunnel.
I forgot the lead actor's name. Maybe Dan could search that up. James Darren. They both loved that show, and they would talk for hours about James Darren. who is like one of the leads of that show.
And then they met him.
And they eventually met him, and they couldn't stop geeking out about James Darren. And it's funny just thinking about Bob Costas geeking out about something other than sports.
This is already when he was famous by the time.
Yeah. Oh no, this was only like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah.
6 years ago. So
this is pretty incredible that he's geeking out when we
really
were
funny.
like.
And I believe they still keep in contact with him.
Yeah.
They were just asking James Darren about all these time tunnel questions, and while having dinner in West Hollywood, and yeah, no, funny.
Yeah,
story.
thanks. I had forgotten that. And then Bruce Kornblatt was his segment was great.
I think the best segment of the night, by the way.
Oh, unbelievable!
He pretty much just took the stage. Didn't speak much, but it was more of a tribute to Bob with video. And
he was like, he went, "Here's MLB Network."
Oh well,
and
before that.
Was that before that?
So the MLB we'll talk the MLB Network thing right now. That was just Freddie. That was so Freddie.
Oh yeah.
Freddie came up and said, MLB Networks had produced a segment for Bob. It was a special segment that they had produced only for this event. It was Greg Amsinger and Harold Reynolds doing a little tribute to Bob, which is really cool and sweet and heartwarming.
Yeah.
Telling funny stories of their own about Bob. Congratulating. Also, another video while we're on the subject, Ken Burns.
Yeah. Who? If you haven't seen the baseball documentary by Ken Burns, just a little plug there. It's incredible.
All those PBS documentaries. Incredible.
But yeah, that MLB one, I was sitting there. It's like these are the reporters that I watch, every weekend, and they're just kind of talking about Marist College. Like at the end, he was like, "I gotta read the teleprompter. Congrats on the Marist College Lifetime Excellence in Sports Communication Award," and it was awesome. I was just like, "Oh, the Marist is on the map, not the MAAC.
Marist is on the more important.
Marist is on the map. That was cool." But yeah, and then Ken Burns. So that was amazing. But then Bruce Kornblatt.
Yeah. So he basically did an analysis of Bob, for us to understand how truly special he was and is at doing this job. And he played clips from throughout the eras, talking about how he predicted stuff years before things happened. One of the most relevant ones he played, though, was from the Sochi Olympics 2014, and Bob had a monologue about the tension between Ukraine and Russia, talking about Kyiv and the scenarios there that could unfold if something goes wrong. And it's like everything he said during that monologue ended up happening. and then you go on and on about concussions in the NFL.
I'm going to use a quote in one of my essays for one of my files that he took for concussions. Yeah, it was just like he really brought that in. And NBC, which is the this is the network that is the Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl network right here, and he called out the NFL about concussions, which is just a feat within itself.
And kicked him out of there.
Yeah, yeah. Among other things that were totally justifiable to a reporter, but to a big media company like NBC, they were like a little pissed off. Which, again, he was in his right 100% of the time. But all of these clips were just separate clips of him calling out all of these sports events, and you sit there and you stare. His monologues, we were talking about this afterwards. He did a monologue after MJ hit the final shot to win the 1998 finals against the Jazz. And he apparently, without a teleprompter, did
writing anything.
Without anything, did a 5 to 10 minute monologue about Michael Jordan and what he means to basketball, what this game means for basketball.
The future of the NBA.
Yes, the future of the
end of
NBA.
dynasties.
Not a single verbal filler was used. Not a single one.
The cadence was spot on. No, absolutely. I think Bruce Kornblatt did a fascinating take on the tribute speech by using Bob as his tribute, and I think I don't know if he intended on this, but it was like a lecture.
It was a lecture,
and everyone in the room were students to Bob.
It was like everyone, like, yeah, we got sports comm students here, and not all of you are like that dedicated to sports, but this is why you should care that you are here honoring the most celebrated sports broadcaster of all time. Yeah. And here's why.
Absolutely.
And there was no better way you could have done it. So, hey, Bruce Kornblatt, I know you're an active listener to this podcast, so kudos to you. You changed the atmosphere of the night. Which when Kevin Weinman gave out the award, it just completely elevated the whole thing response. Shout out to Kevin Weinman for shouting us out at the dinner.
Absolutely respect that. We got a big cheer from our Sodexo teammates.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I turned around. They were like, we're not gonna remove you from Marist yet. But no, we got a big cheer from everyone there. He was like, this is the students is what made it, which, I think it was Bob Costas that made it. We were just lucky to be there, to be honest, to be completely honest with you. And then when Bob Costas spoke for the final segment of the night, he didn't need to say anything else. I mean, he took his award. He shouted us out. He was like, to the young. His first segment was to the young people in the room, which I think he was talking about the students. But he said Marist is 1A to Syracuse, which fair enough. You went to Syracuse. Marist College gives out a sports communication award, so you have to like us. But
he said Syracuse 1A, Marist 1B.
Oh, there we go.
And then Northwestern because of Christine Brennan, but
right.
Yeah, no, just putting a cap on everything. This was Jane McManus's final day at Marist, working for Marist. She really wanted to get this set up as her final hoorah, and I want to say this platform, thank you, to Jane for everything she's done. Marist College, for the Center for Sports Communication, for the sports comm students. This event meant so much to me, meant so much to Dan, meant so much to everyone who was there, and the proceeds from the event will help us go further in our sports communication studies, and for to be going out like this, it really is a testament to her character, and really thank you.
I didn't get to know Jane long. I've been here a year. But the energy she brought to students was, the opportunities are there. And you do with those opportunities as you please, but they are there, and they are there for you. She set up all these events for us. And the fact that I will never forget this event for the rest of my life, I know that for a fact. I mean, that is a testament to Jane on her own. She's going to do wonderful things for Seton Hall. Congratulations to her. I think her and Bob Lee are going to, really do a great job at the Sports Media Center. I turn it, a big university, give it a really awesome program. But I am so fortunate to be at a sports communication program that is so innovative and ahead of its time. And what a night. That's all you can say. What a night. So
yeah. Tip of the cap to Jane. Thank you for everything. And I think, well, then we walked back to Grand Central and we had some
Got some Wendy's,
got some
met some
Wendy's.
awesome people, got caught Mormons.
So we go into Wendy's. Oh, so the group broke off because some people, Dan, Jacob, Nick, and I.
We are responsible students, and we had a train to catch.
Yeah, we were not bar hopping. We were responsible. We came home, but before we came home, we had to stop at Wendy's, and we walk into this Wendy's, and so we're dressed up still in our full suits. Says, "Are y'all Mormons?"
Yeah, we got called Mormons, and we were just trying to order, and that's that. Case in point, I think that's New York. That's New York City.
It's perfect.
And that's
it's quintessential New York. He must have just came out seeing Book of Mormon. He's like, that's what a Mormon looks like. So,
and the train ride home also was a testament to that too.
Oh yeah.
But case in point, what an event, and it's gonna it totally changed my outlook on what the center could do and what is to come for my next 3 years, and I'm sure what is to come for Andrew's final capping year next year. So that is it for us. What a segment. We really hope you enjoyed all of these spring sports. Please check them out. This is fun. This has been a fun final April, May episode tier. And we are so fortunate, and we're going to have some content for you guys this summer. And
Absolutely.
Next year, game time. The MAAC is on the map, and Marist will be pinpointed on that map. And it's not because of us, it's because of this whole center and the great group of writers we got going on. And we're going to make sure to highlight everything we got.
And the student athletes doing the work. That's really the main thing for us. We're highlighting their work for Marist. Want to give them some spotlight and kudos they deserve. So,
yeah, 100%. It's that relationship that makes this business go around, and couldn't be more fortunate. So, all right, you'll see us in a couple weeks. This is the Relay Throw podcast. Signing off, Andrew, me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.